All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking, quite literally, one of the most astonishing, desperate, and frankly ingenious chapters in American history. We're going to examine the absolutely incredible lengths that enslaved people in Virginia went to just to secure their freedom. Now, when you think about escaping enslavement, you probably picture perilous journeys on foot, hiding in the woods under the cover of darkness, right? But what if the path to freedom involved stepping inside a tiny wooden crate, having someone nail it shut, and completely handing yourself over to the commercial shipping and transit infrastructure? It honestly sounds like a movie plot, but it's a highly documented historical reality. We're going to see exactly how the domestic freight system became a clandestine vessel for human liberation. 27. Just sit with that number for a second. It's a single number, but it represents sheer human endurance and an agonizing leap of faith. This is the staggering number of hours that a man named Henry Brown spent confined in a small wooden crate, voluntarily mailing himself from Richmond, Virginia, all the way to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in 1849. Think about what 27 hours actually feels like. That is more than a full day and night. Now try to imagine spending that entire time in pitch black darkness, folded up in a space so tight you can barely move a single limb. You're constantly listening to the rumbling sounds of wagons, steamboats, and trains, knowing deep down that any slight sound you make could instantly give you away. It's just a stunning testament to the lengths a person would go to for freedom.
Now, you might be wondering, why on earth would someone endure this kind of torture? To truly understand that, we have to look at the legal landscape of the time. The fugitive slave laws were these incredibly strict legal statutes requiring the return of escaped enslaved people to their enslavers, even if they'd successfully made it to free states. Because of these sweeping laws, standard methods of evasion were becoming impossibly difficult. They were highly surveilled, so being treated as freighted cargo actually emerged as one of the few viable, albeit extreme, routes out of Virginia. The logic here was chillingly simple. If the authorities are aggressively searching for a walking person, become an inanimate object. You bypass the human patrols by simply entering the commercial shipping network.
Section 1. The Deadly Risks. Anatomy of a Boxed Escape. Okay, so grasping the sheer physical terror of this method is absolutely crucial. This was far, far more complex than simply climbing into a box and taking a nap. These men faced an absolute gauntlet of life-threatening perils. For starters, the crates were incredibly small and featured minimal air holes, so suffocation was this constant, lingering threat the entire trip. Then you had the orientation of the box. Imagine being locked inside and feeling the box being lifted up and carelessly tossed into a cargo hold. Transit carriers routinely ignored this side-up labels. If your box was left upside down for hours on end, you risked positional asphyxia or even suffering a stroke as the blood rushed to your head. Add to that severe dehydration and starvation, mostly because they could only bring minimal supplies in order to save space and reduce the shipping weight. And beyond the severe physical toll, there's a profound psychological weight to this strategy. By choosing to become freighted cargo, these freedom seekers were surrendering complete physical control to the shipping infrastructure. They were entirely at the mercy of the transit workers who were casually throwing their crates onto steamboat decks and train cars. Think about the mental game here. Any sneeze, any cough, any involuntary groan of pain from a severely cramped muscle could mean instant discovery. And discovery meant a violent return to enslavement under those fugitive slave laws. It really highlights an immense psychological toll. Having the iron will to remain completely silent and still while your body's being pushed to the absolute brink of its limits.
Section 2. The Underground Network. Invisible Infrastructure.
Now, a journey like this definitely does not happen in a vacuum. You can't just mail yourself without an incredible hidden network of allies on both ends of the journey. For Henry Brown's famous 1849 escape, this required flawless, completely quiet coordination. Step 1 started right in Richmond with his allies, Samuel A. Smith, who was a white shoemaker, and James C. A. Smith, a free black man. They were the ones who actually packaged Henry, sealing him inside and making sure the shipping manifest looked completely ordinary so it wouldn't raise any red flags. Step 2 was trusting the commercial freight lines to just do their job without looking too closely at the cargo. And finally, step 3, the reception. On the other end in Pennsylvania, the box had to be received by trusted conductors. In this case, it was the legendary William Still and the Philadelphia Vigilance Committee, who were literally waiting, pry bar in hand, to pop open that box and welcome Brown to freedom. This perfectly illustrates how these boxed escapes weren't just isolated, reckless stunts. They were actually highly orchestrated operations working within the broader, incredibly sophisticated logistical web of the Underground Railroad.
The Underground Railroad utilized a massive secret network of conductors and station masters who provided crucial logistical support, funding, and safe houses for freedom seekers. I mean, without the financial resources to pay the freight fees, the secure addresses to ship the boxes to, and the safe houses to actually recover in after days of starvation and cramped confinement, the whole freighted cargo method would have been mathematically impossible.
Section 3. William Jones follows suit. A legacy replicated. The direct echo of history here is just astounding. Exactly 10 years after Henry Brown made his famous 1849 journey out of Richmond, the precedent he set actually inspired another incredible leap of faith from Virginia. In 1859, a man named William Peel Jones executed a nearly identical escape. The success of that 1849 transit method proved, incredibly, that it could actually work. It established a dangerous but proven legacy. It showed that the commercial shipping infrastructure of the United States had a blind spot large enough to fit a human being, provided, of course, that the human being was willing to endure the unimaginable to get through it. The parallels between these two men are just striking. Both originated from Virginia, and both survived harrowing multi-hour transits inside tiny crates exactly a decade apart. But what I find truly fascinating is how they both ultimately integrated the method of their salvation, the box itself, into their historical names and identities. They became known to history as Henry Box Brown and William Box Peel Jones. They literally took the very instrument of their confinement, a dark, suffocating wooden crate, and transformed it into a permanent title of liberation and agency. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we're really left with a powerful realization. When you consider the massive risks of suffocation, positional asphyxia, and imminent discovery these men faced, their survival is nothing short of miraculous. But it also forces us to ask a lingering question. What other silent journeys remain boxed away in history? For every Henry Box Brown and William Box Peel Jones whose safe arrivals were celebrated and documented by vigilance committees, we have to wonder, how many other incredible stories of resilience, ingenuity, and perhaps tragedy remain permanently hidden within the lost cargo manifests of the past? It's a pretty sobering thought, and it reminds us of the profound, often invisible sacrifices made in the pursuit of freedom. Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.